Okay, greetings everyone. Welcome to our first live stream podcast. Uh, if you've ever visited this channel before or my website, evanshasiya.com, EVENSHESIYA, evanshasiya.com. We have plenty and plenty of podcasts, videos, audios, but this is probably the very first time I'm broadcasting live. But if you're not catching it right now as I'm saying it, it is all uploaded and saved onto this YouTube channel. Please do me a favor, and if you support what I'm doing, subscribe. Just subscribe and pass it on. Let other people know about this channel. Um, as I may have said before, um, what this forum is, I call it three P's in a podcast. Philosophy, physics, and politics. Meaning, we'll talk about Jewish philosophy. We'll talk about how it syncs very nicely, fits beautifully with quantum physics, and however there never ever was really any conflict between Judaism and real science. Talking about hard facts that can be proven either in a microscope, in a telescope, or by must necessarily be as true as 1 plus 1 equals 2. Those hard facts Judaism never contradicted and would never contradict. And throughout the ages, our sages have always sought to reconcile the two. Right? And indeed, let me clear up one quick possible misconception about Chanukah. Don't think it was a battle between faith and reason. No, we our position was that the Hellenistic culture, where it's wrong and totally unreasonable. Right? And whatever's right about Greek science, at least in the day, our sages worked with it. Maimonides worked with it. What they got right in the hard demonstrable sciences, Judaism loves that stuff, and it fits perfectly with our true Torah. It was just that Hellenistic culture was the woke social justice of the day, and they were trying to tell us what's right and wrong when we have the supreme authority of the Torah to tell us what is right and wrong. And right and wrong is not scientific. You can't, in a sense. I mean, it's real, but in a sense that it's not something you can see in a microscope or in a telescope or figure out mathematically. The right versus the wrong is something that God Himself, who designed the universe, has to tell you. He's the one who, just like He set the scale for the physical laws, He's the one who has to, the only one qualified to tell you what's right and wrong, because He invented reality on all its levels. Anyways, we are now, sunset has just passed. Some people are already lighting their Hanukkah candles. Some people do it when it's dusk, when the stars come out. So, as everyone's undoubtedly preparing to light their candles, I just wanted to share a very, very quick thought. Um, uh, you know, we say in the Al Anisim, right, the supplementary prayer that we say on Hanukkah and Purim. We say we thank Hashem Al Anisim for the miracles, Vala Porkan and for the redemption, Vala Gvuros and for the might, Vala Chuas and all the salvations, Vala Milchamos and for the wars that you did for our forefathers in those days at this time. There's two problems with that prayer. Two problems that actually are, these are leading questions to see the depth. But two things that require explanations when I mean by problems. First of all, we say we leave the wars for the last. The wars should have been the first. First, the Maccabees, The Hashmonaim, the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees. They went by both names. All right, they went to war, and subsequent to their willingness to go to the war and fight for what they believed in, God did miracles and salvations and displayed His divine might. So the war should have been mentioned first, not last. Right? Question number one. Question number two is that we say that you did in those days at this time. Right? It should be in those days at that time. What I mean in those days, in this time. And there's a simple answer for that. One answer answers both questions. Simple truth that Hanukkah never stopped. And Hanukkah was just the beginning and the fuel base for all our cultural wars until the end of time, when Mashiach, the real Messiah, will come and bring world peace by causing all the nations to accept the truth of the Torah. Right? So the truth is that jug of oil didn't just miraculously burn for 8 days. That miraculous jug of oil is burning until this day. It openly, in a revealed way, burned miraculously for 8 days, but it's burning until this very day. Hanukkah is the basis that will give us the power to go through all future culture wars, When it's the Torah, it's called a cultural war, but it's so much bigger than culture. It's so much bigger than that. It's about the right versus the wrong, the good versus the evil, right? Divine light versus the darkness of an atheistic secularism, or uh, Hanukkah gives us the light, to shine, the spiritual ammunition for all future wars. That's why wars are mentioned last. That God in those days, you already gave us with the miracle of Hanukkah, gave us the wherewithal for all wars that are yet to come, not just in those days, but even at this time. So at this time is to stress that Hanukkah wasn't just then, it's now also. It was in those days, but in those days, you gave us spirituality that extends up to present day. Earlier today, and with this, I give a shout out to my webmaster, graphic artist, and good friend, Tzvi Lebetkin. I guest starred on his show. Look him up at Tzvi Lebetkin. Find him anywhere on Twitter, on YouTube, and go to his channel also and subscribe to him also. Great friend, and he's always been doing my web work and my graphic work, and I owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude, as do you if you're enjoying this stuff. He set up this YouTube channel for me. So go to @Tzvi Lebetkin and follow him. He's got a great sense of humor. Anyway, as I interviewed with him earlier today, say Hanukkah has not stopped. And that's also, in the blessing we make, we make two blessings, right? Over the menorah. Also, we first make tonight we make three, because on the first night you say that God, thank God for allowing us to live another year, right? To come to yet another Hanukkah, Shechianu, but that's only on the first night. Just praising God for the opportunity to have another Hanukkah again in our lives. But the regular two blessings that we make menorah is the first one is to acknowledge the command that was instituted to light the Hanukkah candles, and the second one is to thank God for all the miracles that He did for us in those days at this time. The same phrase I can just supplement for it. At those days in this time, that we have the power of miracles. It was internalized. That's they bring an inference from what the Talmud brings, from Megillas Tanis, about the institution of Hanukkah. It tells about the story of how they when they drove the Greeks, the Hellenists. Sadly, it was a civil war in those days, like it is today. We have terrible Hellenized Jews. They're called Nadler, Schumer, Schiff, Hellenists. Fighting for the trying to hurt this president, who's the greatest friend the Jewish people and the state of Israel has ever had, right? And who was sticking up for biblical values. Misyavnim, sadly, history repeats itself. And that's the whole point, right? A one-time victory over our enemies would have never been instituted as a eternal holiday if not for the fact that our sages perceived that we got spiritual energy from that victory to last for all generations. It's a holiday for all generations because we got spiritual energy that lasts for all generations. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it a permanent holiday. It just should have been just a celebration for people of that generation alone, right? And especially in light of the fact that that victory that they had, that they pushed the Greeks out, it lasted just a little bit over 200 years, and those 200 years weren't the best in our history. I mean, we got a lot of productive work done in preparation for the long exile, and that's the point. They perceived that even though it was militarily was a very local victory that lasted for a relatively short amount of time in the life of a nation, but we got spiritual power that spans all generations. And they infer this also from the whole story as the narrative. Narrative is such a dirty word because that's what Democrats do, create narrative as opposed to fact. The story, the storyline is what the fake news does. What I mean to say is, the historical account, the way it is relayed in Megillus Tanis and in subsequent copied in the Talmud, is that they drove the Greeks and their Jewish allies, the Hellenist Jews. They drove them out of the temple, purified the temple, and there was no pure oil to light with. They found one jug, which was only good enough for one night, and one day, literally it says, and it was good enough for 8 days. And so it continues like this. In the following year, they instituted Chanukah to be permanently 8 days of joy and hallowed, singing praise to Hashem, which includes also the halacha of lighting the Hanukkah candle. Why didn't they institute it right then and there? It's the next year. So the commentaries explain they would have not made it a permanent and eternal holiday binding on all generations if it was just a one-time thing for that particular generation. Right? They waited another year, and they felt that when the time came back, right, they felt the spiritual energy that they felt the year before. They saw that it's a permanent spiritual battery, and that's why it deserves to be an eternal holiday. They waited a year, and they felt that when these days come back, that's what I say, in those days at this time, you have to wait till on the calendar it's the same as those days, but you will feel the same spiritual energy in this time. So they experimented. They waited 1 year to see whether this was just a one-time event that God had mercy and did a miracle, or this event was loaded, packed with spiritual energy for all generations. They saw next year, they felt all the same spiritual power. 1 year later, they knew this is for all generations. And that's why it has to be a holiday for all generations, to be able to draw power for all future culture conflicts, all future culture wars. And we're in that right here, right now. Hashem help us, the fight of right versus left is not just for smart policies. It's not just that, and we should support this president's policies just for that purpose alone, if even just as pragmatists. which just goes to show you that the Yetzer Hara, evil inclination, he's not looking out for your earthly affairs. He might claim he is, like he might admit in a moment, if you corner him and say you're trying to destroy my spirit. So he might admit that, well, okay, I'm not to destroy your spirit, but I'm looking out for your body and for your earthly affairs. He's not. He wants to rip you down. The evil inclination wants to take you down in spirit and in body. He's not even looking out for your financial well-being. He'll claim he is. He doesn't care about that either. Look at how they're inciting everyone against this president, despite all the good that he's bringing, even for the minorities. The minorities never had it better. The Jewish people never had it better. But sadly, the leftists are inciting against this president, and they have the absolute audacity to claim that it's about the spirit of the country. That's what Sleepy Joe says. For the spirit of America. That's amazing. That is the biggest lie there ever was. But that's what they want to do. They want to lie the biggest lie possible. Right? Yeah, at least if they would say that they're advocating for the advantages of socialism over capitalism, which there really aren't any, but you could fool someone into thinking that way. The average college professor thinks that way. I mean, the one who's engaged in humanitarian studies, not anyone hopefully not anyone who's a serious scientist, right, or serious economist, right? But you're a human, a liberal arts professor will tell you, socialism's a great idea. All right, but it's not even that. That would be like a half truth because you can debate economic theory, and it could be a debate, even though it's pretty clear to most thinking people with living brain cells in their head, and especially with 100 years of world history, socialism sucks. It doesn't work, right? But at least it could be, it could be a rehash of the old debate. But they take it a step further because they don't even want it to be a quasi, somewhat, legitimate debate, even though this debate has been clearly won already many times over in the last 100 years. All right, but they want to take it to the biggest falsehood possible. They just love it. The big lie. Because that's what evil's about. Evil's about lies. They don't want truth. They want falsehood. They want falsehood. They want to replace truth. They want to with a different truth. That's called falsehood. There's only one truth. And they want to replace truth. As they say, it's a battle for America's spirit. That's the biggest lie there could be. This president, right, is sticking up for the American spirit and the biblical values that the founding fathers so adhered to and modeled this republic upon. And he's sticking so hardly for the state of Israel and religious liberty. It's the biggest lie. It reminds me of the famous story I heard from my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro. He told us a story from Rabbi Cheskel Abramsky. He was the Rav of Slut. I guess that's Russia. And he was imprisoned by the communists. By grace of God, he was subsequently released. He got out alive from under the KGB, or whatever it was called at the time, and from there went to London. From there, finished off his life in the land of Israel, and produced amongst other things, his Chazon Yecheskel monumental commentary on the Tosefta. So he used to say, jokingly, but it really was no joke at all, says the Russian newspaper is called Pravda. You know what Pravda means? Pravda means truth. But he asked rhetorically, truth. It's full of lies. There's not two words of truth in the whole paper. But that's the point. They want to create the perfect lie. It to be absolutely 100% a lie. What should they call it? Falsehood? That would be the truth. Right? Right? Give it another name. Well, that's its name. No. So they wanted to call it truth. That even the name of the paper should be a falsehood. So it should be 100% false. Right? I was reminded of that story when I hear Democrats, leftists, talking about it. They want to take down Trump president. It's about the spirit of the nation. Right? That is the biggest lie. Right? It's not a smaller lie that they have better economic or immigration policy. That would be the smaller lie, right? It's also a lie, but it would be a small ultimate lie is that it's about the spirit of America. This president sticking up for the spirit of America. Religious liberty, sanity, biblical values, support of the state of Israel, putting your own first, which is most definitely a biblical value. God has you born into the family because you're responsible to them first. And in going in concentric circles, after that, you're responsible for your people of your town. And after that, the people of your country. The Torah, the Bible wants boundaries, wants gender separation, gender identification and gender separation, biblical values. Right? He's the only one that's standing between us and the terrible social justice woke culture. That's the Hellenism of the day, the new cultural truth. They talk about this. 50 genders, or there's no such thing as gender. It's sick. Right? And that's why they hate him so much. Right? So, we are definitely in Hanukkah, 2019. The war is still on. Right? And it's flared up in a way that's never flared up, prior, to the Trump presidency in recent times. This is, we're in Hanukkah 2019. And I just want to share with you one more thought, then I have to go and light my own Hanukkah candles. Okay. There's a precursor to the whole story of Hanukkah, because we believe that the lives of our forefathers in the book of Genesis that we're reading these days, and every Shabbos, we have a few more weeks to go to finish the book of Genesis. All right, our founding fathers, the Jewish people, laid down the foundations of, the foundational values and the foundational concepts that our history is weaved out of. That's what we mean by Maaseh Avos Siman Labanim. Whatever happened with our forefathers is a signpost for, these types of things will happen with the descendants. And so there's a precursor in the lives of our founding fathers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right, for the story of Hanukkah, right? And that's when, in what we all read, not this past Shabbos, but the Shabbos before, Parshas Vayishlach. Yaakov went back for small jugs, and he was alone. Right, those small jugs, we say, are an allusion to that jug of oil that was miraculously untainted and untouched, by the Hellenists did not defile it. All right, so there's allusion just in that. But what happens there? He struggles with the archangel of Esau. He struggles with an angel, whereas Esau in the flesh, he's very submissive to. Sent him already earlier that same evening, sent him a very lavish gift, and next day bows to him. What's going on? You should do it the other way around. Pick a fight with your fellow flesh and blood, right? Don't pick a fight with a spiritual creature, the archangel of the nation that Esau is going to ultimately beget. If you had to pick your battles, you should pick, start up with a creature that's your own flesh and blood, as opposed to spiritual creature. Right? And indeed, that spiritual creature, Yaakov tested him, but he did pull out his leg, which gave us the prohibition of eating the Gidanosh sciatic nerve. And that pulling out of the leg precedented 3 days. First of all, his victory of pulling out the leg, that's Tisha B'Av, the day of the destruction of the temple. And that's the secret that our sages say. Anyone who doesn't observe the fast of Tisha B'Av, it's not that he broke his fast. It's worse. Whenever he ate it, it's like he ate the sciatic nerve, Gidanosh, because, as it were, the little aspect of victory that the angel had over Jacob, that plays out in the history of the nation with the destruction of the temple, which is a temporary setback. Just like Jacob got healed, so also the first temple got rebuilt, and we believe that the second temple, will be rebuilt in a way that will never be destroyed again with the coming of the third temple speedily in our days. Amen. Right? But there is the comeback. How the legs got healed. right? So it doesn't specify which leg got pulled out. Was it the right leg or the left leg? We say that's the role of Chanukah and Purim. Purim is parallel to Yaakov's right leg, and Chanukah parallel to Yaakov's left leg. So, yeah, as it were, the Chanukah and Purim is like how Yaakov overcomes, despite the fact that he was hit in the leg. Despite the fact that's like Purim and Chanukah overcoming, the fact that were pinned down by the Persians in the time of Purim, and pinned down by the Greeks in the time, Greeks and the Hellenists in the time of Hanukkah. We overcome. We overcome how we're pinned down. That's what Hanukkah and Purim are, and it's all about wrestling with the angel, and as opposed to Esav in the flesh. So our sages explain it is a very deep idea, right? That of course we're human beings, we're the Jewish people, and we do wrong sometimes. The evil inclination. Our sages say he starts up with us even more than with the nations of the world. He's always trips us up. So look, we're going to be vulnerable because we're not 100% virtuous. Sometimes we do things wrong, but we have to choose where the vulnerability will be. Yaakov Avinu, was choosing, and he was saying like this, right? We're going to be vulnerable because of our sins. Should we be vulnerable in spirit, or should we be vulnerable in bodies? I choose to be vulnerable in body. I will submit to Esav as choosing that if we're ever vulnerable, let it be in the body. But up against the spiritual entity, where it's a spiritual battle, it's a battle for the spirit, right? Battle for the spirit. There we never give in. There we never give in. We fight back, and if we get injured along the way, we will fight until we win. When it comes to the spirit, right? We fight, and we don't give up. We just keep on fighting until we win. When it comes to issues of the body, sadly, we fight and lose sometimes, or we just surrender because we know we can't. We can't win physically. That's only when it's a physical struggle. It's only because we're vulnerable, because we're not perfect. Yaakov, our father Jacob, was choosing where the losses will be. If there'll ever be any losses, let it be in the body. If we'll ever have to surrender, let it only be in body, not in spirit. In spirit, we fight until we win. Right, and that's the point. That we never lost our spiritual kingdom. And the Rambam says, as a result of the miracle of Hanukkah, the Jewish kingdom was restored for more than 200 years. But 200 years, that's a little spit in the bucket of the history of a nation. No, the answer is, the spiritual part of that kingdom. Our spiritual kingdom is forever. And that's what Hanukkah gave us. When we restored the Jewish kingdom, the kingdom of the spirit is forever, and we tap into that power even in this day while we're still in this long and bitter exile. So if we lost the physical benefits of a kingdom, which are beginning to come back also, with the establishment of the state of Israel, it's a process, because the state of Israel has to also attain its spiritual maturity. Sadly, there are leftists in Israel also pushing against the religious status quo, and certainly against religious progress, let alone they're even trying to erode status quo that was agreed upon over 70 years ago. Right, so the inner spiritual kingdom of the Jewish people reigns supreme. Right, spiritually, you can never get us outside of the jurisdiction of our kingdom. Hashem being our king, and the Torah being the laws of that kingdom. The spiritual side of that kingdom has always been with us, right? And we never have been anything other than servants of Hashem. Ana avda kuchabrihu. That is the aspect of Hanukkah that's eternal. So even if the outer trappings of the restored kingdom were lost a short 200 years later, the spiritual energy the fight against the angels. So even if in the flesh there have been setbacks, was destroyed. We went into exile. We went through a Spanish expulsion and Inquisition. We went through a Holocaust, just to name a few, right? Those were all the destruction of Jewish bodies, sadly, because we have not yet merited our to Mashiach, right? Not yet fully atoned for whatever we need to atone for the real Mashiach, right, to come speedily in our days, right, and have the whole world follow, what the Torah says should be done. We haven't merited that yet, but all those setbacks were only in the body, never in the spirit. And that's what Hanukkah is, a renewal of the power of the spiritual battle, and not just spiritual triumph. Hashem help, just like there was victory in those days, let it be at this time. Amen. Maybe we'll be back on the air later tonight. Please subscribe to this channel, and please tell everybody else about this channel. Take care, everybody. A licht Hanukkah. Let it be a bright light Hanukkah.